Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. So I've got about 60 board feet of alder here that's destined to become the long portion of the top for the quilting desk. More important than the board footage is the fact that I have 8 boards. Each board I'm shooting for about 5 inches on width. So I'm going to go through each board and pick out the defects and cut off what I can, and then worry about getting it cut to a little bit oversized, but not a lot oversized, so that it fits on my joiner. And it also allows me to, kind of half-heartedly mark the 45-degree angle to make my corner and leave me some larger chunks of scrap either for future shop use or perhaps the short side of the table as well. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to start breaking down this lumber. I'm only going to do it one board at a time to keep us in that neighborhood that I want to be in with as much usable scrap left over as I can. So I'll be cutting them to rough length with the jigsaw, joining an edge on the joiner, and then probably ripping rough length or rough width at the table saw. And then I can go ahead and face joint each board to get it flat, and then we'll move on to the next board. I won't plane all these boards until I have everything kind of rough milled, at least on those 3 sides. Okay, so there you can see a very rough milling of what we've got going on. I still have some low spots and some things that need to be worked out, and we'll do that when we plane all of these surfaces down to final. I did half-heartedly kind of mark on here where the actual lift is going to go so I don't get dominoes in that field. And I'm going to glue these up 2 boards at a time, which will allow me to push them through the planer one more time before doing the final glue up. That'll just cut down on my sanding at the very end. So next up, I'm just going to keep planing this material, and then we'll get on to a glue up. Okay, so these are down to pretty much just needing one more pass through the planer, and we'll be good. So I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to go ahead and fill some of these knots. Let that planer do some of that work for me. I did add a couple of drops of black trans-tint dye to these, and we'll darken these knots up just a little bit. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to glue these up 2 boards at a time. But I am checking to make sure that my alignments are good before I move on to the next 2. I don't need a lot of dominoes. They're only here for alignment. And my seam was really good, so I should really just need light clamping pressure. Even though my seams look really good and the boards are aligned, I'll put a little insurance on the seam. And we'll put a couple of clamps over the top. There we go. Got 4 more sets of these to do. Like I said, I'm working the edges and the seams as I go. So when I come put the 4 halves together, everything will come together as nicely as that did. Okay, and there's the first glue up for half of this tabletop. Like I said, I did them 2 boards a piece. So when these come out of clamps, if I need to run them through the planer one more time, I still have that opportunity. I'm hoping everything comes out fine and I don't need to do that. If I don't, then it'll just be rinse and repeat. I'll mark for dominoes and glue up again. So it's a good thing I got plenty of clamps or I wouldn't have been able to pull all that off. I'm gonna let these sit for a few hours and then pull them out of clamps and go ahead and assess and make sure the boards didn't twist or move on me, and we'll go from there. All right, so there's the first half of this tabletop glued up. I'm gonna leave that sit in clamps overnight, and tomorrow I'll go ahead and cut the 45 on it, do a little preliminary sanding, and mark out for where we have to cut for the lift. As well, I've still got, of course, another half of this table to do. The other half of the table, I'm not gonna video. It's exactly the same as this half. Really no changes. Okay, so I apologize. I forgot to turn the mic on, so you didn't get to see me actually make the cut. I clamped 45 on here and then clamped the track to that 45 to dial in my edge. There's actually a little width difference in the overall slab of about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe, on full length of this slab. So I just chose this outside edge to be my straight edge, and that's what I use for reference. So this one's cut. I'm going to go ahead and take it in there and set it on that base and get the first look at how that is on there. And that's going to allow me to actually pull my measurements that I need to start doing the other half of this slab. Okay, so there's the first half of the top laid on there. Like I said, it allows me to get good measurements. I'm happy with my overhang all the way around. More importantly, the wife is happy with the overhang all the way around. So now I'm going to go ahead and start pulling my measurements and cutting up for that other slab. Like I said, I'm not going to film the other slab because it's exactly the same as this side. And then we'll use dominoes to attach them. And I'll haul all that back into the shop for the final attachment. Okay, next up we're going to go ahead and cut the 45 for the other half of this table. I've got my tri-square clamp back down in there, and again I'm referencing off of that outside edge, and this side wasn't too far off, so it'll be just a mild trim. Okay, so I've glued all these blocks on here. They're just plywood blocks. I tried the blue tape and CA glue trick, but it just wasn't strong enough to hold these blocks. So all I've done is I've went ahead and located for some dominoes, and I'm going to get those cut now. Okay, I'm going with epoxy for this glue up because it's going to be a fairly long glue up. I got to get epoxy on both surfaces, and I've already set the dominoes in the other side, and then we'll get this whole thing put together. And this end grain is really going to suck this in. Okay, I apologize for the light. It's a shame I lost this block up here. I got just a little gap up here in the end, and I'm just going to go ahead and mix up some epoxy and get that filled in with epoxy, and it is what it is. Okay, so it's time for the cutout. In the sewing machine, this is the plate that fits around the sewing machine. So I created a template that is going to leave me my groove for this template. And then I went ahead and just double stick down some 1/4 inch material on the outside just to support the router. I've got a guide bushing in, got a 1/2 inch spiral bit, and I'm just going to follow around my template. And then I'll come back and cut out the inside. Normally, I would prefer to run dust collection, especially on carpet, but because I really want to see what's going on here, I'm not going to be running any dust collection for this operation. I've set my depth. This plexiglass is about 1/4 inch. So here we go. Okay, so that turned out pretty well. I've got a little cleanup to do in the corners to fit her insert just right, but that'll be easy. Next up, I've got a relief hole in that far side that I just drilled with a Forstner bit, and I'm going to use the jigsaw and just cut around the inside of my line. I just need to make sure that I leave enough lip there for that insert to set on. Okay, so I just used sanders and some chisels and cleaned up the corners, and now that sewing insert sits in there just right. Next up, I got to mount the lift and then do a little final sand on this, and probably going to get a coat of armor seal on this first. Okay, there the lift's all installed. By the way, the lift came from Rockler, and it's one that she's had for quite some time. It was in the old desk as well. The insert fits really nice, and I got her machine all leveled out on there. So next up, I just got to get the machine and that insert out, do lots of sanding, and see about getting some armor seal on this. Okay guys, well there it is. It's as finished as it's going to get for now. I got to head out for work tomorrow. So it's got about 3 coats of armor seal on the top for right now, and the sides still have to be finished, but my wife will do that while I'm gone. When I get back, I'll probably go ahead and shoot it with some waterborne finish, but that'll get her up and running for now and keep her happy. I'll move the equipment around the other side and kind of give you a view from the other angle. Okay, and then there's a view from this side. So she definitely has plenty of table space now to work with. Quite a bit more than she had before. So that's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the project. And until next time, take care.